Yesterday, Donald Trump accused Nancy Pelosi of trading using insider information, which is, of course, what she's been doing. I mean, at least according to every single report everywhere, as well as the quiver quantitative Pelosi strategy, they call it. My friends, if you have followed the Pelosi trading strategy, you'd be up something like 700%. I kid you not. And the way it goes is it's not just Nancy Pelosi, and it's technically not insider information, but it is. The way the game works is actually quite simple. If you're in Congress, you can introduce legislation that simply by introducing, not even getting passed, will damage the stock of a company. So these people in Congress can say, hey, short insert company, I'm going to make a bill that's going to hinder them. Then when the stock drops, we sell our position, make a bunch of money, and then the bill never goes anywhere. That's the name of the game. Or they'll get a bill coming through that's showing preferable treatment for a company or some kind of procedure regulation pertaining to, AI or whatever. And they'll say, what's this bill going to do? Really? And then they'll call their stock people and say, buy a bunch of this stock because we're going to vote on this bill. And as soon as it goes through, their stock's going through the roof. That's why Nancy Pelosi is worth something like $250 million. And when Trump called her out, she lost her mind. Started freaking out. She got really mad at CNN, like, why are you asking me this? Ma'am, it's because there's a bill called the Pelosi Act. It's named after you because everybody knows what's going on in Congress. Now it's moving forward. Trump's mad at Josh Hawley because Hawley didn't want this provision in it that was going to force Trump to divest. I actually don't agree with that. Rand Paul says it should be in there. And it was like every other Republican and every Democrat were in favor of this bill. And it gives Trump a leeway, basically. It says it won't take effect until the next individual is elected. I got hair in my mouth or something. We're going to get that. There we go. It says it won't take effect until the next election cycle. That means Trump is off the hook. Now, there are some Republicans that are like, nah, we shouldn't play that game. But the game has been played and the bill is moving forward. And I think it's probably a good idea. I don't think you should come in right now and say, you are in office right now, divest. I think it's fair to say, starting with the next cycle. So in the next midterm, the next senators, whatever, this effect will be in place. I think that's fair. That way people know what they're getting into when they apply for this, not to have it applied retroactively. That being said, apparently several members of Congress are very angry and don't want this to be. You know why? This is the game, baby. Come on. You really want to work in Congress for $175,000 a year? Nah, the name of the game is you get in Congress, you get $175K, and they're going to tell you exactly where to put that money. You put that money in the right spot. By the time you leave in 2 years, you're probably worth a cool couple mil. And if you stick around long enough, you might be worth $250. Pelosi blames her husband. But as if any of us believes that her husband doesn't have privy to information. It's not classified or anything. It's just the schedule. Yeah, we're voting on this, that, and otherwise. He also knows that Pelosi might say something like, she was speaker, right? I'm not going to bring that to the floor. I don't know. It sounds crazy. Not classified. And then he says, okay, I'll short it. And now they're rich. Let's play. Now, before we get started, my friends, we got a great sponsor for you today. It is AmericanFinancing.net/Tim. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? So, right, imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room. It's possible when you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas bills piling up, you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards, and there doesn't seem to be a way out. American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off that debt. You need to call American Financing today before you get to a point where you can't make those payments. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and consolidate debt, all without upfront fees. And their customers are saving an average of $800 per month. That's like a $10,000 raise. It's fast, it's simple, and it could save your budget this summer. Call now before it's too late. 866-890-7811. That's 866-890-7811. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Tim. And don't forget, my friends, you can join our Discord server at Timcast.com. If you want to call in to the uncensored call-in shows every Monday through Thursday, 10 p.m. And we're doing these live events. We got our event on the 2nd. Pretty sure it's like mostly sold out. You can still get some tickets. However, on the 9th, as we're debating feminism, there are still preferred seats available, and members get first dibs on the preferred seating. So if you're a member of Timcast.com, the ticket's free. You click it right there. Boom, you get to show up. You don't got to do nothing else. For everybody else, if you're not a member, it's $40 for preferred, and I think $30 for standard seating. Check it out. It's going to be epic this weekend. It is going to be amazing, my friends. But now let's jump into the news. We got this from the Post-Millennial. Trump calls for investigation of Nancy Pelosi over stock trading using inside information. President Trump on Wednesday called for former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to be investigated for becoming rich by having inside information. Quote, Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband. I think that's disgraceful, he said. Later adding, Nancy Pelosi should be investigated because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen. What's going to be announced. She buys stock. Then the stock goes up after the announcement is made, and she ought to be investigated. Here's the clip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Hawley introduced legislation that would ban members of Congress from owning or trading individual stocks. It extends to the president and vice president. Are you in favor of that legislation?
Well, I like it conceptually. I don't know about it, but I like it conceptually. And, Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. So in that sense, I'd like it, but I'd have to really see I study these things very carefully, and this just happened. So I'll take a look at it. But conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made.
Yep.
And she ought to be investigated.
They all do it. During the press conference, Trump was asked about a bill introduced by Senator Josh Hawley that would ban members of Congress as well as the president and vice president from trading stocks. Senator Hawley has described the bill's progress as a long overdue development. We have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have. Pelosi, who has resisted similar legislation in the past, endorsed the bill after it cleared the Senate committee, saying, we must have strong transparency, robust accountability, and tough enforcement for financial conduct in office because the American people deserve confidence that their elected leaders are serving the public interest, not their personal portfolios. Not all Republicans backed the modified bill. Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio withdrew his support after changes from the original bill he had supported, and others, including Senators Ron Johnson and Rick Scott and Rand Paul, expressed concerns as well. A White House official told Axios that the inclusion of the executive branch raised Article 2 concerns, which relate to the constitutional limits on restricting the powers of the president. Trump posted to Truth Social, why would one Republican, Senator Josh Hawley from the great state of Missouri, join with all of the Democrats to block a review sponsored by Senator Rick Scott with the support of almost all the Republicans of Nancy Pelosi's stock trading over the last 25 years. The information was inappropriately released just minutes before the vote, very much like sabotage. The Democrats, because of our tremendous achievements and success, have been trying to target me for a long period of time, and they're using Josh Hawley, who I got elected twice, as a pawn to help them. Very interesting. Well, I love this headline from Newsweek, my friends, because it certainly is not the headline that we're using. Nancy Pelosi brushes off Trump insider trading accusation. She brushed it off, my friends. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Is that what she did? Because we got this from Mediaite. Nancy Pelosi scolds Jake Tapper for asking about insider trading allegations. Why do you have to read that? Is that so, Ms. Pelosi? Let's play the tape.
This afternoon, President Trump mentioned you, and he made an allegation about your investments. I want to roll that clip and then give you a chance to respond.
Yeah. He's frozen. CNN, what are you doing? Come on. We've seen this clip.
Seem to be having some sort of
investment.
Yeah, but let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
But I
and
wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that have been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here, and I'm very proud of my family. And while he might make fun of us, while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head, and he thinks that's a riot, I'd rather not go into some of my other complaints about him right now. Rather to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid and Medicare. What a triumph, a great pillar of economic and health security for the American people.
Lady is 84, and I'm just watching this thinking to myself, Lord help me, I will never be that. I will never be 84 years old and doing this show or anything like it where I'm just like, listen to me, don't have laws that stop criminal activity. Oh, my God. Lady, go away. You're 84. Just please stop. Stop appearing. Get out of Congress. Sit in your rocking chair in the sun, with the sunset, rocking back and forth as your grandkids, who are probably 40 years old, play with your great-grandkids. And Lord help me. I can't believe this is where we are as a country. We've got a, what do they call it? A geriocracy? Is that what it is? Geriocracy? I have no idea. I can't believe it. My friends, I love how Newsweek says she just brushed off insider trading accusation. No, she actually got pretty heated there. Asked him why he was asking her about it. Said, can we just drop this and move on? There's a reason they call it the Pelosi Act. She says, I'm not into that. My husband's into that. Oh, boy. Look at the Nancy Pelosi net worth. Welcome, my friends, to quiverquant.com. And we call this the Pelosi strategy. Copy Nancy Pelosi's trades. I'm going to do this. She's, as of 2014, she's up 731%. Man, for real? Yo, that's crazy. So if I were to put my money in, that's better. Is that, wow. That's 100 times the average return. If you're going like look at this, the market index SPY is plus 237. Okay, so it's up quite a bit in 10 years. She's up 731. That's amazing. She got a current net worth of $261 million, and she says that's my husband. I'm not into that. Oh yeah, lady. So your husband just happened to know to invest in these companies like Nvidia right before they're about to skyrocket. Now, maybe he's got other privy information or whatever. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you, it's real simple. Because it ain't just Nancy Pelosi. It is all of them. It's all of them. If they're in a committee and they're like, hey, I'm hearing from Congressman so-and-so, he's going to introduce a bill that's going to make it legal to sell marijuana or something federally. Then the members of Congress are like, really? When's that going to be? His staff, they're working on it right now. It should be finished in, a few days. And then they say, okay. They immediately go and they buy stock in companies that engage in, marijuana-related activities. And then when the bill is introduced, the stock is going to go up because the media is going to report Congress proposes legislation to legalize pot. You get a big return, you sell it, the bill fails, whatever happens, cha-ching. Or shorts. A bill comes forward and the stock goes up. And then you're like, hey, man, I know for a fact this bill doesn't have the votes. I'm talking to my buddies. They're saying they're not going to vote on this. So you short the stock. You say, I'm going to short it. I'm going to borrow that stock, sell it now, and then pay it back later. That's how shorting works. Then when the bill fails and the stock goes down, basically it's like this. Let's say the stock is at $100. You want to short it. You say, lend me the stock right now. They do. You then sell it at $100 a share, and you're hoping that within a week or a month, the value of that stock is going to drop. Then you buy it back at a lower rate and return the shares you borrowed. It's really amazing how that works. So if you buy at 100, you buy one share at 100, you get $100. It drops down to 90. Then you buy it back at 90, give the share back to the person you borrowed it from, and you made $10 profit. when they are going to vote down these bills and they know exactly how it's going to be played, they make money and they get rich, and we don't have access to that information. I think that should be illegal. I think it technically already is illegal. It's insider information, and they do this. And Pelosi is the queen of it. Here's the New York Times. Bill barring stock trading with Congress advances with Trump carve-out. The bill passed the committee with the support of every Democrat and only one Republican, its sponsor, who modified it to shield President Trump from a divestment requirement. A key Senate committee on Wednesday approved legislation that would bar members of Congress, the president, and the vice president from trading stocks after its Republican sponsor changed the bill to ensure that a divestment requirement included in the measure would not apply to President Trump, which is just weird. The legislation, sponsored by Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, attracted an unusual coalition of supporters, winning approval from the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, with every other Republican on the panel in opposition and Democrats unanimously in support. This is getting weird, isn't it? Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky and chairman of the committee, tried to chip away at Democratic support by framing the measure as one that would protect a president they despise. He noted that Mr. Hawley's original proposal would have required the president and the vice president to sell off investments starting in 2027, while the version approved on Wednesday does not apply that mandate until the start of an elected official's next term, meaning it would never apply to Trump. But that is not a protection for Trump. That is a protection for everybody currently in office right now to be told, hey, guys, I know it's always been this way. Starting the next cycle, you can't do this. I think that's acceptable. I think that's fair. Congress was never going to approve this otherwise, because you've got people in Congress right now being like, you're going to force them to make a bunch of divestments right now? Okay, here's what we're going to do. No divestments. Starting your next term, no stock trading. Okay, fine. Now, still, the crazy thing is, I don't think this is going to pass. It might, I'm not sure. But it's looking like there's a tremendous amount of opposition. Members of Congress behind the scenes are saying, like, absolutely not. Because they want to get rich, man. You know, imagine you fought all this way to get into Congress, and now they're telling you can't cheat the system? What was the point? That's what Congress is all about, isn't it? Quote, the substitute protects Donald Trump. The original bill does not protect Donald Trump, Mr. Paul said. I hope everyone will think about that. I would oppose the substitute change because I think it should apply to everybody or nobody. Yes, but it's saying starting at the next session. I think that's fair. I mean, a lot of people want to punish Congress, I guess, but I think it's fair to say, okay, we're going to enact this next time. It literally means in a year. What's the big deal? For Trump, it means a couple more years. The measure faces steep odds given the degree of Republican opposition and a fierce repudiation on Wednesday by Mr. Trump. A White House official speaking on the condition of anonymity to detail private discussion said that substantial questions about the legislation remain and that Mr. Hawley had blindsided Mr. Trump's team with this bill, which initially would have required the president to immediately sell off investments. Mr. Trump appeared non-committal about the bill when reporters asked him about it at the White House on Wednesday, but he later condemned it on social media, savaging Mr. Hawley as a second-tier senator who had allowed Democrats to use him as a pawn to advance a bill that is so bad for our country. Really? Well, I'm curious about this. He complained that Mr. Hawley had sided with Democrats against an attempt by Senator Rick Scott to add to the bill a report of stock trading by former Speaker Nancy Pelosi and members of her family. Lucrative stock trades by Miss Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, have been a favorite focus of her Republican critics and helped fuel the push for new congressional stock trading rules. Indeed. And why not? Why not? Here's the AP. Trump calls GOP's Hawley second-tier senator after bill to ban stock trades in government advances. I'd like to take this opportunity to just let everybody know. So we've hosted on this morning show many members of Congress. Timcast IRL has also had many members of Congress. They don't like driving all the way out here. It's not that far, but they still don't want to do it. So on the morning show, we invite them. And you know what? We usually have people banging on the door. Some new legislation, something's coming up. They want to talk about it. They want the opportunity. They want to get attention to it. So sure enough, a lot of people were asking us, hey, man, we want to talk about this insider trading stuff. And we said, that's great. Let's do it. Hey, there's also this bill from February 4th that would stop payment processors from restricting the sale of legitimate goods. Have you seen this story on the video gaming stuff where Steam and Itch were forced to take down adult games because payment processors were pressured by feminists? Now, by all means, I'm not a pro-porn guy. I think it's bad. But I also think if it's legal, payment processors shouldn't be intervening to force cultural norms from feminists onto how people have voted. That is not how this country is supposed to work. There's a lot of bad things about this country that are legal. We fight against them. We win in legislation. Now, here's the thing. I bring this up for. When we then responded to a bunch of these members of Congress and said, we also want to talk about this. It's not getting a lot of attention, but there was a bill from, I think it was from Kramer, North Dakota. Zip. They stopped responding. Interesting, I say. I say interesting. This is a big story right now, and we're going to get into a little bit, but I think it's worth bringing up right now, considering what they're trying to talk about and the game they're trying to play. I've interviewed many members of Congress. I have interviewed many activists, and I think behind the scenes, all of these members of Congress are playing a game. All of them, even the ones I like. I like Thomas Massie, I like Rand Paul, but I think they've got their agendas too. For example, when I was talking to Mike Cernovich about Thomas Massie's bill to get the Epstein files released. And Cernovich brings up a good point. Any one of these members of Congress can subpoena individuals and force them to come in and testify. Why aren't they doing it? Why is it this grandstanding, right? You got a bill. Hey, we're gonna get this done. Sure. Well, why don't you start right now as we're waiting on this and hold a hearing and subpoena people, or just call them to testify? You might not even need a subpoena. Why won't they do that? It seems like the reality is there is a plan for everybody. They know what they want to do. And look, most people have plans. They're schemers, scheming. And they say, I'm going to focus on this. This is the issue we're going to do. So when we go to them and say, yes, we will talk about that. However, we're also interested in talking to freedom-minded individuals and about this issue. Kevin Kramer, I think, is the senator from North Dakota. I could be getting his name wrong. Introduced this banking bill because of gun bans. You had Visa and MasterCard basically saying, like, we're not going to allow processing on guns. Now, the same thing's happening to adult content on video game websites. Now, certainly we can make an argument about keep it away from kids and adults can buy what they want to buy. But when we bring this up, everybody just stopped responding. I think that they're scared about talking about real grassroots issues, and they wanted to keep it to something safe. And that is, it's partisan, it plays well, it panders to the base, and it will go nowhere. But right now, you've got gun rights activists, advocates, and gamers united on this big issue. It's regular people saying, hey, man, we don't want payment processors telling us we can or can't buy. Whether you like guns or don't, they shouldn't be able to restrict you. Adult content, I don't like that either, but it's not illegal. And if it's legal, people have a right to buy it. So why are these processors getting involved? Radio silence. Radio silence. We, in fact, had some members that were saying, can we pre-record and talk about Pelosi? And we were like, sure. And then we were like, hey, can we talk about this too? And then, sorry, you know what? We're no longer available. I kid you not. Now, that's wild. But we'll tell you when it happens, because I ain't playing these stupid games. If they don't want to come on, this is what we call, this is the challenge we face in media. Access journalism is a reality. There are people who are concerned right now about saying negative things about Donald Trump in the White House because they know the press team there is going to be like, don't do media with them because they're going to challenge us. That's a reality. I don't play those games. But you know what that means? It means they're not going to come on this show. And then what? No scoops. If that's what you're going to play, then fine, play it, man. But I think y'all need to realize the system that we are facing, anti-establishment, establishment or otherwise, is mechanized. It absolutely is. A game is being played. You know, I was asked about this last night. Shout out to Tyler Today News on the Discord. And he was asking why I didn't cover certain stories that he thought were important. The simple answer is I don't personally care all that much about some of these stories. So there are a lot of people who are going to say, talk about this story. Everybody's always telling me I should talk about a certain story, and why aren't I? And I'm like, I'm unmoved by it. I'm not saying it's not important. It's just, I have nothing to say. But the reality is also this. I did a story the other day talking about YouTube being banned in Australia for under 16s. Censored completely. And we know that's the game. I know for a fact, if I make a video on something I think is important, AI, big tech, or otherwise, and it doesn't fit the mechanized agenda, they will suppress it. If you can figure out the algorithm on what they want you to talk about, You will get millions of subscribers overnight. That's the name of the game. You know, man, I don't do that. It is what it is. But this is why, for the back half, we actually don't have a member of Congress, which is surprising considering how many have been reaching out to us trying to come on the show. Literally, I don't want to say every member of Congress, but when we went to them and said, guys, this is an issue we want to talk about, they said no. Well, to be honest, they just stopped responding to us outright. Because that's the game. Subjects are taboo. They will not entertain them. Well, let's wrap up this story, though. Trump's coming at Josh Hawley, and I got to tell you, how much of this feels performative and how much of you think it actually is. I ran a poll yesterday on Timcast IRL saying that, Trump is going to go after Obama. Obama will be arrested, or Obama will never be arrested. 56% said Obama will never be arrested. Most of us believe that we are watching some kind of scripted dance that's not real. The challenge there, I suppose, is Trump actually got arrested several times, and his lawyers. So it certainly seems like it's not completely mechanized, right? The fact that Trump won twice, despite everything they tried to stop him, suggests there is a bit of reality. But I'll tell you this, man, and I will stress it, behind the scenes, there is a dance being played, and that will always be the case. Certain people won't talk about certain issues. YouTube will ban you if you do. Certain names aren't allowed to be said. So I'll tell you this. Let's get as controversial as we can. You know, with Epstein, ask yourself why it is that you are allowed to, anyone on social media can make videos about Epstein, attacking Donald Trump or otherwise, or Bill Clinton, and get millions of views. But when Trump was getting impeached, if you said the name Eric Ciaramella, they would delete all the big tech platforms. I think except for Twitter, but Facebook and YouTube especially. They would delete your video or your post without warning. There are things they won't let you talk about. There are things that YouTube will suppress. Now, I don't blame YouTube. I get it. If I was a company, I made a video titled YouTube to be banned in Australia for under 16s, and nobody clicked on it. You know why? It's not that the story doesn't matter. In fact, it's one of the most important stories to YouTubers that exists. It's the first of the Western world to ban under 16s kids from social media. Should be the biggest story, don't you think? It is coming. And YouTube just didn't recommend it to anybody. You know, that YouTube just decided on this one, YouTube to be banned. Let's not show that to anybody. Why? Because people might agree with it. And it would hurt YouTube as a business. And so then the question comes to me. Hey, Tim, if you do this segment, YouTube's going to suppress it. No one's going to be able to see it. You'll make no money. Can you do it? Well, I did it anyway. AI stories are similar, but this is the game that is currently being played. So when I look at this, let me just say this, not to be pessimistic or black-pilled. I have to wonder, are they ever actually going to pass this? Does it ever actually matter? There's an old joke. If voting made a difference, it would be made illegal. And that is an assessment on how the powers that be manipulate the public and control things for their own benefit, the deep state, as it were. I don't know where we're headed, but there's always going to be some kind of deep state. That's just the reality of it. Big companies, big investors don't want you talking about certain issues. They want you talking about one thing or the other. The only thing that changed in the culture war was that there were two different ideological factions. But as we begin to win our version of it, certainly you're going to start seeing the same degree of censorship. So with all that being said, my friends, I'm going to wrap it up there. We're going to be joined by Gavin McInnes to talk about debanking, because none so debanked and censored as he. And with this issue of MasterCard and the fact, the discussion of censorship and mechanization, I thought, who better than a guy who was shut down, censored, smeared, lied about, debanked over and over and over again, so we can talk about these issues, someone with firsthand experience. That'll be up at 4 p.m. at rumble.com/TimPool, as well as youtube.com/Timcast. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Stay tuned. That interview is to come later today. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.